The diner buzzed with the usual lunch rush chatter, the clink of silverware, and the hum of country music from the radio. Amara moved gracefully between tables, her posture calm but eyes weary. Scars, long and winding, marked her neck and arms, silent testaments to a past she never spoke of. Most days, people avoided looking. But not today. A group of young men sat near the back, loud and full of themselves. As Amara passed by with a pot of coffee, one of them leaned toward the others with a smirk. "Bet she got those scars in prison," he said, not bothering to lower his voice. Laughter followed, sharp, ugly, careless. Amara's face didn't change. She'd learned to wear stillness like armor. But her hand trembled slightly as she refilled a mug. She kept her eyes down, but the sting of humiliation was impossible to hide. The laughter wasn't just noise, it was a familiar wound reopening. Around the room, a few customers looked up but said nothing. The moment hovered in the air, uncomfortable and thick. The smell of fried food and coffee couldn't mask the bitterness creeping into the atmosphere. Amara turned away, her steps measured, heart heavy. She didn't want sympathy, only dignity. But in that moment, dignity felt 1,000 miles away. She didn't see the older man in the corner booth watching, his expression suddenly alert. He wasn't watching the scars, he was studying something else. Something he recognized. Something important. The laughter had barely faded when a quiet voice broke the tension. From a corner booth near the window, an older man, broad-shouldered, weathered, and wearing a faded army veteran cap, put down his fork, eyes locked on Amara. He hadn't been laughing. He'd been watching carefully, thoughtfully. Not at her scars, but at something beneath them. As Amara reached across a table to collect a plate, the sleeve of her uniform slipped just enough to reveal a faded tattoo on her wrist. Barely visible, but unmistakable to someone who knew. The man's breath caught. It was a military unit insignia. His unit. He pushed back from the booth, wincing as he stood on stiff knees, and limped over to where Amara was gathering dishes. He tapped the edge of the table gently, his voice low and careful. "Where did you serve?" he asked, eyes searching hers. Amara froze. The question wasn't mocking. It wasn't pitying. It was real. Her eyes flicked to his cap, then to his face, lined with years and memory. She answered softly, as if unsure it was safe to speak. "Kandahar. 3rd Recon. Medivac. 2012. The man blinked, overcome with emotion. His mouth opened, then closed again as he gathered his thoughts. When he finally spoke, his voice trembled. "I was there. I thought you looked familiar. You're the one who pulled us out, after the ambush. You saved our lives." Amara's breath hitched. For the first time in a long while, someone saw her, not her scars, but her story. The diner fell into a hush. Amara stood still, stunned. Her hands, still holding a plate, slowly lowered to her sides. She hadn't heard those words in years, hadn't even thought anyone remembered. The old veteran's voice had cracked when he said it, full of something rare, gratitude. "I remember," he said, louder now, turning slightly so others could hear. "It was a Medivac unit. Our convoy got hit. I was bleeding out. I thought we were dead. Then she came in, under fire, and dragged us out one by one." Gasps murmured through the diner. The same people who had just laughed at her were now silent, their expressions changing. The group of young men exchanged glances. One looked down at his hands. Amara's eyes were wide, uncertain. "You were bravo too," she said softly. The veteran nodded, tears now spilling freely. "You saved 6 of us. They said the bird wasn't coming. But you came." The room watched as the veteran reached out, gently placing a hand over hers. "You're not just a survivor," he said. "You're a hero." For a long second, no one moved. Then, slowly, a woman at the counter stood and clapped, once, then again. Another joined. Then the whole diner erupted into applause, the sound echoing off the walls. The cruel words from earlier were gone, drowned in a moment of truth. Amara stood at the center of it, not as someone to be pitied, but as someone to be honored. For the first time in a long time, her scars felt like medals. As the applause filled the diner, a wave of silence fell over the young men who had mocked her. Their laughter was long gone, replaced by shame that hung heavier than the heat from the kitchen. One of them muttered something, eyes glued to the table, then stood and quietly slipped out the front door without finishing his burger. The others sat frozen, avoiding eye contact. No more jokes. No more smirks. Amara stood at the center of the room, unsure what to do with the sudden attention. She wasn't used to being seen like this, not as broken, not as strange, but as something more. Her hands were still, her posture the same, but her presence had changed. She no longer looked like someone hiding. The veteran gave her a nod, one only a soldier could give, deep, respectful, full of knowing. He sat back down, watching her with pride, as if seeing a comrade finally come home. Then, as the applause faded, another customer walked up, an older woman in scrubs. She reached into her purse and placed a few bills on the counter. "I'm covering her shift meal," she said gently. "Someone like her shouldn't have to pay today." More followed. A young mom at a nearby table offered to babysit if Amara ever needed help. A man in a business suit handed her his card and whispered, "If you ever want something else, come talk to me." Compassion spread like wildfire. Amara didn't say much. She just smiled, softly, gratefully, as kindness replaced cruelty, one gesture at a time. Later that evening, the diner had quieted. The rush was over, the seats mostly empty, the sun casting long golden streaks across the floor. Amara sat in the corner booth, the same one the veteran had occupied earlier, now across from him, a warm cup of coffee between them. She looked different now. Not in appearance, but in presence. She wasn't shrinking into herself. She sat taller, shoulders back, eyes steady. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Finally, she broke the silence. "I stopped talking about it. After I got out, people looked at me like I was broken. The scars did all the talking." Her voice was quiet, but clear. "I got tired of trying to explain who I really was." The veteran nodded, staring into his own cup. "Yeah. I know that silence. But today, you reminded a lot of people who you are, including me." He looked at her with a kind of reverence only someone who'd been through the fire could offer. "They only saw the scars. But I saw the badge underneath." Outside the window, the American flag waved slowly in the evening breeze. Inside, the air felt lighter. Amara smiled, genuine and unguarded. For the first time in a long while, she felt visible, not for what hurt her, but for what she overcame. The scars were still there. But now, they meant something more. Not a past to hide. But a legacy to carry. And she wasn't hiding anymore.